Howdy. Welcome to another episode of the 180-day challenge, Become an Idea Machine. And today I'm talking about 10 words of wisdom that are actually sentences. Or in other words, I was trying to find one-liners that are, yes, words of wisdom or um, jokes or maybe nice returns to any statement somebody makes. So you know this. There's this saying in Germany. It's called a Treppenwitz, and actually, it's you would call it a joke of the stairs. Basically, you talk to someone and you just say something outrageous, something you don't like, or something ridiculous, and you like to come back with a with a retort, but you just don't find the words. And then you leave the room, and when you're in the staircase, then you realize what the best response would have been. But by then, of course, it's too late. And when I grew up, I always thought that that is not a skill; it's a talent. You have to learn to be to give a witty response. And lately, I've realized no, it's really not. It's a skill that you can learn by practicing it. And so, the task today was to find 10 10 one-liners, 10 jokes, and I thought I can actually do that into maybe some jokes, maybe some nice returns, and kind of try to introduce you how I came, how these returns, remarks were coming to me, how these one-liners came to my mind, and maybe just let you in on how I would construct these and how I used to reframe a statement somebody made, right? So what you normally do if somebody says something that you don't really agree with, or something that paints you in a slightly negative light, or something like that, if you want to come back, you basically one of the best techniques is accepting the other person's frame and exaggerating it, right? So he says something outrageous, and you just come back with a response that seemingly takes it serious what the other person says, and then does it one further. For example, if you ever talk to girls or women and you started flirting with them, they may come up with the phrase, "Oh, so you're a player, huh?" And what you say to that is, "Nah, I'm not really a player. I'm just, I just talked to, let me see, 1,736 women today. Nah, not really a player." You see how you take the initial statement that you're a player that is intended to make you in a playful way look bad, and you just accept the frame. You just say, "Yeah, sure. What you say may be right, but you know what? I think I've talked to so many girls, maybe more than you think, but I don't even think that's okay." You understand? You basically take the other person's statement at face value and then exaggerate it, right? That puts it into completely absurd territory. Or if we stay with the topic of dating, um, if a girl asks you, "Are you seeing other women?" then you could just answer sort of, "No, no, no, I'm not." No, you say, "What do you mean, other women? Like last month, last week, today, right now?" And that shows basically she's welcome to ask that, but we're not going there, right? So you can. That's just some two examples from dating that are in my mind, but you can come up with different examples from all walks of life, and that's what I tried doing here. Some of the examples I thought about them myself. Some other examples I had used before, and I'm not claiming they're all super funny. It's just some ideas, right? And I wanted to illustrate how you can actually take a fragment, take a sentence somebody else said, and put it to a funny conclusion. All right, so number one is, so that happened to me when I was in my last lab, and um, I somebody gave a talk, and I was kind of fascinated with the topic, and I asked a question. Obviously, I had asked that question a month before, the same person or something like that. So some colleagues told me when I was asked the question, "Oh, Florian, you already made that observation before." To which I said, "Yeah, really? See, must have been a good observation then." So basically, taking their accusation, you repeat yourself, or basically the subtext was, uh, you're not paying attention. You're repeating the same question that we already had before. And I'm just taking that at face value. I'm not accepting that frame. I'm not saying, "Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, sorry, I already asked that before." No, I just say, "Really? Wow. And there must have been a reason that I asked that before." And that's how you come back. Second example, um, that was when some people, and then I had it in science, but some people also do that in news reports. They always say, when we analyze this big data set, we saw that there's a difference between the experiment and the control, or between case A and case B, or group A and B. We just quantified all this data and we see there's a difference. Now, in science, I still believe that if you want to if you have an experiment and you test a condition and test it to the control condition, um, and you don't really see an immediate difference at first glance, then to me the tendency would be to try to do the experiment a different way, see if you can see a difference then. But some people really go there, they don't see much of a difference, but still they believe that their experiment may have resulted in a difference. And then they start going through all their data, and then they find, after going through 1,000 experiments, that yes, indeed, there's a very, very narrow difference. And I find that a little bit intellectually dishonest, right? Because I think if you devise an experiment and you want to see something, right? You have maybe a control experiment where you culture some cells in a dish. Imagine that you culture some cells, and then you culture another cells, and you want to see if the substance you have developed um, cures cancer, right? So what you do, you have a cancer cell line of cells that are just growing in the petri dish, and then you take your anti-cancer drug that you developed and throw it on another part of the cells, and then what you want to see is that with your cancer drug, those cancer cells don't grow anymore, right? So we expect control condition here, cells are growing uncontrolled, and then this condition here, your drug stops the growth of those cells, right? And in this hypothetical experiment, sometimes people don't see a difference, but they still believe so strongly that their substance makes a difference that they start repeating the experiment again and again and again, and then they do that 1,000 times, and then they type the data into their computer and they see a very tiny difference. And then they claim, see, there's a difference, right? So the original condition, there's like one cell division every 10 minutes, and with your with your drug, there's only a cell division every 11 minutes or something like that, right? You can't say the drug is efficient, but yet they claim, oh, there was a difference, and then they can publish it. So somebody told me, for that very same reasons, quantification is for people without a phenotype, or quantification is for people who don't see a difference. And it's a comeback for people that tell you, oh, when we look at all the data sets, we see there's a difference, right? And it's a bit dubious, but they just use large data to justify that there's a tiny difference. Yeah, you can use that as a comeback. Number 3, that resulted from an article I read from James Altucher, where he talked about some joke writers. They have the duty to make like 70 jokes per day, come up with 70 one-liners per day. And one way you can do that is you take news headlines and then just take half of it and just complete it with something that's funny. So, for example, if I take the sentence, "It was so cold," then I can add, the snowflakes were shivering on their way down. Excuse me. So what I did there was, it was so cold, and then I paint the picture of what does it mean when something is cold. I look outside, for me the picture is it snows, right? Then the second point I do is, how do I feel when it's cold? Well, I'm shivering, or I take a larger, warmer pullover or something like that, right? So I paint the picture, what it means when I look at cold, and I paint the picture of what the cold does to me, and then I personify some of the items in the picture I had first. So I would say the snowflakes were shivering on their way down. So yeah, instead of me shivering in the cold, the snowflakes were shivering. That is how I constructed that one-liner, basically. Number 4, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is now building a hydrogen bomb, which is a great tragedy because nobody told him you use a different form of hydrogen to bleach your hair. That pokes fun of Kim Jong-un's reported vanity, and it also makes light of the fact that North Korea develops their own nuclear weapons. Number 5. Somebody tell Paramount and CBS that suing a fan movie is not an efficient way to steal ideas or to come up with ideas. So basically, there's this Trekkies made this fan movie I read. It was an article in December 2015. They had this enterprise movie they built on themselves with a fan production. They used their own money for that, and so on and so forth. And then Paramount and CBS have nothing better to do than to sue them for making a fan movie, right? Because of course they did copyright infringement because they know they use symbols from Star Trek that now Paramount and CBS owns, I guess. And I find it a bit pathetic because if Paramount and CBS would make great movies, there was no fan that needs to make the movies, right? And also, you're welcoming that. You're welcoming that brand. I don't know what the economic motivations are for movie companies to sue fans for making their own movies. I find it pathetic because, quite frankly, you want to build up a brand. You want the excitement of people. Let them have their little fan movie. That's okay. As long as they don't put them out to make commercial money with that. I'm sure you can somehow make a deal if that would have been the case. But really suing fans sends like completely the wrong message. Number 6, George R.R. Martin missed his winter deadline because he was totally snowed in with work. You get it, right? George Martin wrote Game of Thrones, and he always took a little bit longer than fans would have appreciated. So much so that now HBO has started making the 5th season of Game of Thrones, or the 6th season actually, without having a book that they model it off. Just because they didn't want to wait any longer. They couldn't. They had to schedule to make the season, and now Martin didn't finish the draft from the book. So, yes, yeah, right. Winter is coming is one phrase from Game of Thrones, so thought it fits. Then another one, George R.R. Martin has still not finished writing Winter because his pen is still depressed from killing so many characters. Also pretty obvious. If you watched Game of Thrones or read the books, you know that there's a lot of death, and that's what I'm saying with this line. It's always a bit strange for me to discuss how I came up with my own jokes. So I don't want to that kind of kills the joke if you tell what the actual fun part of the joke is, right? And I haven't yet found a way to do that in a funny way, to explain funny jokes in a funny way. Probably not doable, but giving my best here. It's still important to make clear that to illustrate some possibilities to come up with jokes, because, as I said, that's a skill, and I'm probably not very good at it, but I'm learning, and you just have to do it, and it doesn't matter. No judgment. Doesn't matter if your one-liner bombs. Sometimes I think the best, wittiest jokes that you make, you think is that's the joke of the century, totally flop, right? And then some statement that you not even thought about, like everyone finds hilarious, and that's just part of it. You just have to figure out what your audience likes, and it's not always what you think is funny. Oh, I actually should include that one Monty Python clip from that one joke. So they develop. So that's from. I forgot the movie. There was basically a movie about Monty Python that is basically a montage of a lot of different clips they had in their Monty Python's Flying Circus, and the Art of Not to Be Seen or something like that. They have this joke. That is absolutely deadly. So funny that people die of laughing. And the military decides to employ that joke. So they have to write like one word on each card, and they can only be put together they can only be put together by the enemy, because he has to read it and then die of it. Should include that clip. I will, if it's available. Number 8. Let's hope that in Star Wars 7, more than the snores will awaken the Force. I haven't seen Star Wars Episode 7 yet. I have to see. Maybe it's super cool and super interesting. I've heard mixed reviews, and my hope is that it's actually exciting and not sleep-inducing. But I'll see. One point, I guess. Number 9. People in Oregon are the fastest talkers in the country. Although shivering is still only one word, no matter how Coca-Cola it is. Thank you. I know you're laughing your ass off right now. I know it's funny. I'm quite touched by your euphoria. Please don't die from the jokes, but I'm really happy that you're here and that you're watching. Even though I have this funny head. That was actually a real story I read in the New York Times or somewhere. I'll include the link. But it's actually they looked at phone talks, at phone calls, and then try to figure out who talks fastest in the country. Number 10. I heard Starbucks is now taking care of their employees' housing. The wake-up call will be 1 tall latte macchiato, please. And with this one-liner, I thank you for your attention. If you have a funny joke that you want to tell me, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this movie, click like. You can subscribe to my video channel. I'll be very happy about that. Welcome on my blog. As I said, leave a message or leave a thank you note, a comment, a joke, whatever you want. I'll answer every comment, and I'm happy you're with me, with us, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. All the best, and take care.